Welcome to another Roll for Crit News Roundup. We skipped last week again, this time because I didn't feel there's enough to make a whole episode. So we've got another 2-week news roundup for you. Let's see what's been happening in the world of tabletop gaming for May 13th, 2024. First on the initiative track is a story about Critical Role and a new way they want to bring content to you. Now, if you don't know, Critical Role is the beloved live D&D show that's been on both YouTube and Twitch for quite some time. However, they have a new platform you can watch them, and that's actually going to be their own streaming service. Titled Beacon, this new streaming service will be either $5.99 a month or $59.99 a year. The idea is you'll still be able to watch their other shows on YouTube or Twitch. However, you'll be able to watch them here, some of them a little bit earlier, as well as avoiding maybe some of the issues. For example, maybe a poorly timed commercial that pops up during either YouTube or Twitch. They also will have some exclusive stuff, including a personal invite to a private Discord, being able to get discounts on some merch, as well as getting first stab at some of their live event tickets, which should hopefully be able to allow you to bypass scalpers, assuming scalpers aren't also taking part of the service and grabbing the tickets that way. They also will have 2 shows that are going to be exclusive to the streaming service. The first one is Fireside Chat, in which the actors are going to be answering questions from the Discord. And then there's going to be the post show, which is them talking after the RPG sessions. They wanted to stress that this was a push to make themselves more independent and basically bring more in-house, whether it's how they make it or how they deliver their product to the audience. And to try and separate themselves a bit more from third-party platforms, which in this case, they really mean Twitch and YouTube, because they've had problems with Twitch and YouTube, whether it's actually personal problems specifically with their show on those platforms, or just generally how those companies have been treating everything over the past few years. Now, this is, I understand the idea of wanting to just take more things under your control. And of course, if this is something you're excited about and willing to pay for, the more power to you. But it's another subscription service, and we're already seeing a glut of that in just general, like, every TV channel now wants to make their own service, and it's basically people arguing we're already back in cable days again. And this is not the first time I feel like we've seen something very niche trying to pull everything under their own service when I'm thinking of Warhammer Plus. That being said, Warhammer Plus doesn't have a way for you to watch it for free, so to speak, while they'll still have the main Critical Role shows available for you as you'd watch it now through Twitch and YouTube. But being a pessimist, we'll have to see what happens. I mean, I don't know, just too much sad news when it comes to streaming stuff. Well, maybe they'll drop there and go exclusively through their streaming service. But that would definitely be a challenge and have to require a lot of people, I think, signing up for the streaming service already that they feel like everyone's already on there, because it's already, it's a niche show. I mean, yes, there has been a huge growth when it comes to watching these live RPG sessions, but I don't know if that would be enough on its own. Like, the reason the other streaming services are the ones that survive are because they're like Disney, who just own so many different shows. But at the very least, like I said, as of now, they do have the shows available for how you'd watch it normally. So maybe I need to look at the glass a bit more half full and just see this as a new way for them to make sure that they get more money and not give a cutaway to another platform, and another way for them to interact and make the fans happy. Next on the docket is GAMA, the convention that's more aimed towards the manufacturers and the industry rather than simply just the gaming fans. Now, I was about to say last year, but the last convention, which was this year, was their biggest yet, with over 2,700 attendees and over 300 exhibitors. Because of this, they realized, wow, that's a pretty big number, and not only do we want to keep growing and have that large number, but we also need to have the space for it. So this is cause for them to make 2 major changes. First, the next showing will now be during February 23rd to the 27th. This is designed actually to avoid 2 other board gaming related shows, the New York Toy Fair and the Vegas Toy Fest. Now, the other change is they signed an additional year to be in Kentucky. Now, the reason that this is important is because that last year they talked about how they really wanted to move and leave Kentucky because of some of the anti-LGBTQ laws being passed there. However, at the time they realized, should they break that contract, they would have to pay $1.8 million, which just wasn't feasible. And now with them growing so big, they have to make sure that they find a place that's just as big. And right now this place can fit that. so they signed on for another year. If you didn't know, the contract was set to expire in 2025, but now their last show will be in 2026. So they are stating, while we know we still have issues with the laws that are being passed, the reason why we're looking at it before, but as of now, we are still going to be having the convention here in Kentucky. We are looking for a new place for when the contract expires. We'll have to see where it'll move from there, because if it continues to grow in larger in size, that means each time they're going to have to make sure wherever they're moving it to can fit it, or whether this year is going to be a bit of a blip, and then the next 2 years will shrink, showing that they don't need that extra year extension. Either way, right now, you're still going to be heading to Kentucky, but know that you'll be aiming for more of the end of February for its new dates. Next up, we have an interesting story from Kickstarter involving a project titled Wonders of the First. Now, Wonders of the First was a CCG that only went live recently, but Kickstarter was told they had to cancel their campaign. The reason was because that apparently part of the rewards involved NFTs. Now, this CCG would have cards that they claimed would never be reprinted. They also were very clear that they're using AI art to generate the art for the cards. And as of right now, I could not find NFT on the canceled page, but in the comment section, they mentioned how they removed all of that. And I assume it was to see if that could be instead of canceling the project, they could just remove it, basically clear that up, but that didn't seem to work. So they're gonna have to relaunch everything, possibly on their own site, they said. So I don't know exactly how the NFTs would play in it, whether you scanned the card for NFT or the NFT was a whole separate thing that, you just got for maybe pledging at a certain level. Now, of course, because this is NFT related, this did actually had quite a bit by the time it was canceled, around $1.4 million, with a lot of people actually backing at the highest level, which is about $8,000 a backer. Now, NFTs and AI are very controversial topics in the board gaming world. We've seen a ton when it comes to AI art, and just NFTs usually are very closely related. That said, even though they are very clear that they're using AI art, to my knowledge, the Kickstarter has said that it's only because of NFTs, that in their project, they do state at the bottom, we are using AI art, we're using these generators. So that doesn't break Kickstarter's terms. It was specifically because of the NFTs. Now, there is a new launch page, which you can click to sign up for when they relaunch it. So we'll see whether Kickstarter approves the new project and whether it simply was because of the NFTs, or whether there'll be more issues when it comes to these kinds of projects. That said, it's interesting to see how we're slowly evolving, because there's definitely been plenty of projects before that maybe have used blockchaining in Kickstarter, but this was all before Kickstarter themselves were like, we're going to add blockchaining. And everyone's like, no, you're not. And they're like, we're going to follow you because we don't want you to stop using us. And of course, AI, like I said, we've seen so many different places where it's become a big issue, just in board gaming alone, let alone in other places. So I'm very curious to see, not just with this project, but just the general evolution of how both these topics, though this one's mostly NFT related, will affect what Kickstarter does and does not allow on its platform. And finally, another reminder for you to check your old card collection. A Black Lotus just broke the record for how much it sells at auction, this time by quite a bit. The new record for this Black Lotus was a pristine 10 grade from CGC, basically meaning it's in perfect mint condition, and it sold for $3 million. Now, the previous record was for the 1 of 1 ring that Post Malone got, and so this is quite a big deal, as this is not technically a 1 of 1, but I think as of now, this is the only Alpha Black Lotus that has gotten a 10 grade, so it's sort of a 1 of 1 until someone else finds another. Either way, once again, just goes to show how much money is in CCGs and how badly maybe some of these cards might need a new reprint, because I don't think the average player is going to be able to shell out $3 million. All right, let's get to game announcements. First, we're going to stick with Magic the Gathering, actually, with something old, but only finally being brought to the US. Back in 2018, Japan actually made a manga about people playing Magic the Gathering titled Destroy All Humans, They Can't Be Regenerated, a Magic the Gathering manga. This actually was popular enough to get 14 volumes, but only now is being brought over to, well, I assume international, but at least right now, America. Now, in Japan, each of the volumes actually came with a promo card, and at the very least, the first volume here will be the same. So you'll be able to not only pick up and read the manga with official translations, but also hopefully get a good looking card as well. You can expect to pick this up later this fall. Next, we've got Lord of the Rings Duel. This is actually a bit of a rework of Seven Wonders Duel. It's not a simple reskin. There'll be some unique changes to rules that will fit the theme a bit more. So you can go head to head as playing as the Forces of Darkness or fight against them. And you'll be able to pick this up in fall as well. Next up, we've got two things from Portal Games. We first got Resurgence. This is a new edition of the game with some slight tweaks to help with balancing. Then we have a new expansion for Nurishima Hex, this one titled Desert Tribes. This is actually the 18th expansion for that game, and it adds its own special new mechanic called Hide and Ambush. And both of these are aiming to be released at Essen once again this fall. Then we've got a new Ticket to Ride expansion. It's not the Moon one from April 1st, unfortunately. This one is Iberia and South Korea, similar to many of the other 2-pack maps. It includes 2 countries, each with their own map and own little mechanics. Iberia will have you collect festival cards, while in Korea, you'll be using high-speed trains in order to get the best routes. This actually will be coming out a bit sooner than fall, coming out June 28th. But we've got more cool expansions coming out. First, for the Star Wars deck building game, we actually have the first expansion for that, titled The Clone Wars. This we don't have a date for, I don't even have a picture, but it seems that they have events for you to try it out this year at Gen Con. So if you're excited about the Star Wars deck building game and really enjoyed it, try to get into those events before, let's be honest, they're probably already sold out for tickets. Then we've got a new expansion for Oath, Chronicles of Empire and Exile. We have a review on this, so you can go check it out. It's a very polarizing game, or at least it was for us. This is going to be crowdfunded later this month and should have an actual release next year. Then Clank, this is another one we don't know a lot about. We just have a picture. It's Clank Catacombs, Lairs, and Lost Chambers. So an expansion for Clank Catacombs, which is really cool. It's been very well received. And try to judge as much as you can from that photo. And for the Simon Dune fans out there who maybe missed the last project, there's a new one for a new expansion, but it's also a way for you to pick up on that base game. Dune War for Arrakis Desert War is named after the expansion, but you can pick up the base game. Now, as of the last time I checked, it is not live, but you can go to the page to get notified, or it could be live by the time you're watching this. So go check it out now. And finally, this is one that I found interesting. I talked a little while ago about Tales of Arthurian Knights, based on Tales of Arabian Nights, spelling knights differently. It seems that another Tale game is going to be in the works very soon, Tales of Myth and Legend. This is, though, from Van Ryder Games and is going to have a Greek spin on the game-style story mechanic. Currently, it's going to be for crowdfunding sometime later this year. I don't have an exact date, though. However, that is everything we have to talk about. Let me know your thoughts on all this. And like I said, maybe about, I think, 2 or 3 of these stories were things I would have talked about last week, so I didn't think it was enough. But if you feel like even if I only have one thing to talk about, I should still make a video, please let me know in the comments down below. And of course, if any of these would be interesting for you, and if you'd pay $3 million for a Magic card. Love to hear your thoughts, but for now, thank you so much for watching. I'm Will, and I'll see you next time on the News Roundup.